It's March Madness, and if you're a college basketball fan, you know exactly what that means. We'll be breaking down this year's NCAA Tournament region by region and give you our tournament predictions along with upset specials and much, much more. Cougar News March Madness starts now. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cougar News edition of March Madness. I'm Tegan Martirosian.
And I'm Tyler Whiting. We're going to be breaking down every region in this year's tournament bracket and which #1 seed has the toughest road to Atlanta.
And I'm Kyle Gafori. Every year we see teams that bust our bracket, and we'll tell you who to watch out for this year.
And I'm Jesse Merrick, and after our breakdowns, we're each going to give you our Final Four predictions along with the best possible matchups this year's bracket can offer.
Every selection Sunday, you notice two things: who got snubbed, and wow, not fun to be a member of that bracket. Guys, as you take a look at this year's NCAA tournament, who's got the toughest region, and who's got the weakest region? Who's got the easiest road, and who's got the toughest road, essentially is what we're talking about here.
Easiest road, I think Louisville, because one, they were the number one seed out of the four, and they start off in Lexington, Kentucky, so it's pretty much home court. Fans are going to show up, and it's going to be like home games for them.
But the question is, how much of an impact does a home court advantage play here? I mean, you're talking about, let's be honest here. It's not a sold-out arena in the NCAA tournament. It never is. And it's usually the smaller schools that get the bigger crowds.
But as a local fan, like, if COC was anywhere within an hour and they were in a tournament, you wouldn't go? Especially,
exactly.
Like, you're going to go to every home game. They're going to have at least, like, 50%. No.
See, you are going to get that traveling of the fans, especially with Louisville, because out of all the teams in the tournament, if they make it to the Final Four, they have the shortest route to travel to get there.
Either way, Louisville. You said Louisville has the easiest road.
I think so.
Well, you got Duke in this bracket, and a lot of people feel that Duke is another team
until they get to Duke. Until they get to Duke.
You have two teams that could both be in a national championship Final Four playing each other in the Elite Eight. And you also have Creighton and Cincinnati that could possibly beat Duke. So there's no question in my mind that Midwest is the toughest bracket. There's absolutely no doubt about that.
The toughest.
The toughest. Midwest is
without
by far.
A doubt.
Without question. I mean, the West is, without question, the easiest road. I mean, it's almost a gimme. Ohio State's probably going to get to the Final Four.
I'll give you that.
We don't know how good Gonzaga is, and that's really what's making it tough for a lot of the guys who are picking for their brackets. You don't know how good Gonzaga is because they have a weak schedule. And it's going to come down to maybe Wisconsin. Both teams are very well coached, but it's got to be the easiest Midwest, toughest, no doubt.
Now, see, I see what you're saying there, but then I take a look at the South, and you've got teams like Kansas, Georgetown, Michigan, VCU, UNC, who could maybe surprise some people. You never know with that one. And Florida, who's been very streaky this year. But in close games, they have struggled. And, you know, you look through here, and that just looks like one of the strongest divisions to me.
To me, the weakest division, on the other hand, looks like the East. I mean, outside Indiana and Miami, all these teams
Absolutely
up and down have lost.
Hey, Syracuse can surprise some people. You know, I mean, they didn't play up to as par this year as they normally do, but that 3-2 zone.
They live with the outside. They live and die by the outside shot.
I'm going to have to side with Tyler on this one, too, just because you got to look. Really, there's nobody that Indiana has to be scared about matchup-wise until they get to the Sweet 16.
Maybe UNLV, because they have arguably the best player in the country.
But that's a maybe.
So
I mean, you can't tell me.
You're in agreement that the East is the easiest bracket. You're in agreement with that.
I agree the East is the easiest.
You got to watch out for Marquette, though.
Syracuse lives by the outside shooting.
They are dangerous.
OKC lives by that, and it
in
doesn't work sometimes.
In the words of one of my favorite journalists, that is ASA9, ASA10, ASA11, you have Syracuse at a 4. You have Syracuse at a 4. You have Indiana. You have Marquette, Miami. All of teams that can win the NCAA tournament. Illinois, although they struggled later, this is a team probably one of the best three-point shooting teams in the country. And they can beat anyone.
Didn't Illinois beat Indiana this
year?
They
did, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. You have anybody on this bracket can beat anybody. Cal, who had a fantastic season. They had struggled at times, but they finished strong. Temple, team that beat Syracuse at home early in the season, or on the road.
Temple upsetting NC State. It's going to be
the problem. I think with anybody who's picking is the fact that every team has been inconsistent.
Exactly. That's the one thing you can guarantee is inconsistency this year.
And you talked about the South. There's some great teams in here. This, to me, shouldn't be called the South region. This should be called the inconsistent region. Michigan.
Yeah, UCLA, that's for sure.
How many times was Michigan number one and then the next day fell off? And you have Kansas, who had a point where they lost 3 straight games. Florida lost to Ole Miss in the championship game of the SEC tournament. They lost to Kentucky.
The thing, though, with Kansas is they have all the tools. Like, from the front court to the back court, they got everything to be a national championship team.
And of their 5 games, they lost 3 of them in a row.
Well,
so, I mean, they have been consistent outside of a 3-game stretch.
Well, let's be honest with something. If Kansas gets that far, if they win a national championship, it's going to be because Ben McLemore.
Okay.
Oh, no doubt.
There's no doubt about it.
And
And
he's got to
play from Elijah Johnson,
Exactly.
who torched Iowa State.
All right.
Granted, yes. But so, guys, okay, we're talking about all the other brackets, but the West. We touched on that very quickly.
All right, guys, enough about that. We said at the top of the show that we would break down every region, and we'll start with what many deemed the toughest, with teams like Louisville, Duke, and Michigan State at 1 through 3. As Tigran was saying, is the Midwest really the toughest region?
I'm going to go back to my point. There's no question. No question. I mean, St. Louis is on here, and that's a team. You look at St. Louis and you go, who's St. Louis?
Came out of nowhere.
St. Louis is
They
a
were
darn
a
good
12
team.
seed last year in
Destroyed
last year's
Butler at
tournament, I
home.
believe.
And see, St. Louis is also a passionate team right now. They lost their coach in the middle of the season, had to keep playing through that, and you know they have him in their minds right now. So that is something that is very
Motivation.
scary. They've got that motivation, exactly.
But all I was saying about Louisville, like you're talking about how they're going to have tough matchups in the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8. Every team's going to have a tough matchup there. So, but just to open up Missouri, I just don't see Missouri beating them.
Missouri's a team that started off hot and kind of fell
Yeah,
off.
exactly.
But their team, they're an athletic team that can contend with anybody. And another reason that I forgot to mention, you look at the Midwest. Oregon is a 12 seed. How many 12 seeds have you seen that are as good as Oregon? That's a team that's 26.
But the thing is, Oregon probably wouldn't have even been in the tournament if they didn't win the Pac-12.
How can you figure? They went 26-8 in the Pac-12, beat UCLA twice, once at UCLA.
But if they didn't get that seat, because they showed no love to the Pac-12 this year. UCLA, they won during the regular season. They only got a 6 seed. So then they're not really rewarding the Pac-12 as an elite conference.
They really aren't, and that's true. They've definitely undervalued the Pac-12 for sure. I mean, when you look at the seedings in general, but
no one's above a 6.
Exactly. But I also want to look at here too. You know, you guys were talking about Oregon. We've got a team in Michigan State that, I mean, nobody can say that they really want to see them in March. They're a scary bunch that can go on a run. I mean,
you know, to me, there's people who are in love with the Big Ten. I don't know how good they are, so I don't even want to touch up on Michigan State. But when I look at, going back to your point, you're telling me it's fair that UCLA ended up as a 6 and Oregon ended up as a 12 when Oregon has the better record and beat them? I know we look into RPIs and things like that, but now we're going back to college football because we're basing it off of computers. It should be on the court.
No, it should be. I mean, Oregon does have good forward play. They're led by E.J. Kyle Singler, who played at Duke, his little brother. They got Kazemi, who's a big forward. They can probably hang with anyone. So, I mean, it's going to be – I just don't know. It's just like as a 12, to make moves, it's going to be difficult for them.
And you know what? I'm sitting here talking about Oregon. They can get knocked out by Oklahoma State right off the bat.
Yeah.
Oklahoma State has great defense.
One of the best defense in the Big 12. And almost got them a win against Kansas at home.
Exactly. I actually have Oklahoma State beating them, and I have Oklahoma State eventually going off to lose to Louisville. But I think that's going to be a scary game for Louisville if they get that far.
I gave Oregon 1 win against Oklahoma State, and then I have them losing to St. Louis. I just feel the momentum, just winning the Pac-12. It's going to spark up a flare in them. And, hey, we're in the tournament. Let's make some noise.
I mean, forget the top
and
line.
especially you're led by three starting forwards, your seniors. They're going to be hungry. They're going to want to win.
You're stuck over here on the top part of the bracket, and you guys haven't even talked about Duke.
Exactly.
I mean
Duke
Coach K in the tournament.
How often is a number 2 Duke team really just looked over? I mean, we've talked so much about these other teams.
It's because
yet
Ryan
we still
Kelly
haven't
was
talked
out.
about Duke.
It was because Ryan Kelly was out
Yeah.
for those 8 or 10 games.
Ryan Kelly
he
came
stretches
back.
the floor. The first game back against Miami,
He's
he
6'11"
killed
and
you.
can
He
shoot
dropped
3-pointers.
38.
He's
The
Kevin
first
What was
Durant
their
in
record
college.
when he came back?
I believe they won.
They
lost,
beat
I think
Miami.
they lost 2 games.
No,
They
they
lost
lost one game.
Is that really impressive? Oh, they only lost 2 games. Write Duke off. I don't trust them in the tournament. I know they won a few years ago. This is a team they can lose to Albany, and I wouldn't be shocked. That's
Are you
how.
serious? They have Coach K. How are you going to go against him, first of all, too? Like,
Dude,
him in the
Mr.
tournament.
He's Mr.
And
March,
Seth Curry,
man.
I
You're
believe
telling me you'd be surprised if Duke lost to Creighton or Cincinnati?
Yes.
I mean,
Second
yeah,
round?
Duke. Wait, was
I
it
think Seth
Duke that
Curry-
lost to Lehigh like a year or 2
Yes.
ago?
Lehigh?
It was last year. They
Lehigh.
lost to Lehigh. I don't
Speaking
trust
of
Duke.
Creighton, though, they've got Doug McDermott. I mean,
One of the
boy.
best scorers.
this guy's one of the best scorers in college
Stretches the
basketball
floor
right
as
now.
a forward.
He averages over 23 points a game. I mean,
Honestly,
he's
he
a
could be
great
the biggest
player.
star in this tournament.
He
I mean,
can.
I'm not talking about NBA ready. He could be the biggest star of this
See, in my
tournament.
opinion, I have Seth Curry. So, I mean, I guess we would love to see a Duke great matchup.
That would be an awesome matchup.
That would.
It would actually be Ryan Kelly or Plumlee against Doug McDermott.
You
So I
guys
think they're going
don't-
to get there.
And I'd pay to see that.
You
I think
guys
they're going to
don't
get there,
see,
but a sleeper as a point guard is Seth Curry. Like, he's not expected to perform well. Just do his job, but he will shine.
I think Seth Curry's definitely a guy who can follow in his brother's footsteps, who led Davidson to the Elite Eight.
I think he's more superior than his brother.
I'm sure.
I believe
Steph,
he is too.
Steph Curry
More
was a
physically
way
talented.
better shooter than Seth Curry.
Mm.
In
We
their
could
college
sit here and
prime,
argue
you
that.
know, but that's not what the
You-
show's about.
You know what, Tegan's right.
You know, I mean,
Tegan's right. We could sit here and argue about Duke all day, but can we take a look at the Memphis and Memphis and St. Mary's matchup here? Now, Tyler, I know your thoughts on Memphis. Why don't you tell everybody about this?
I have Memphis going to the Sweet 16. They haven't lost since mid-December. You could say
Lord.
what they want, but they haven't lost in 3 months. They know what to do to win.
good
Everyone
coach,
loses
yeah.
games.
I have,
Gonzaga
one
lost 2
thing,
games.
I have one thing to argue that point. They haven't played anybody.
Neither is Gonzaga. They're number 1 seed.
Conference USA, right?
But Gonzaga has
you don't play a
dominated
lot of
everyone.
people.
First of all, they're 31-2. Memphis is
Memphis is 30-4.
30-4.
It's the second best record in this tournament.
But again, they haven't played anybody. There's a reason why no one has talked about them all year, and because there's a way that Gonzaga plays that catch people's attention.
Understandable. All right, on to our next point. There are some teams that just flat out dominate every season. And like we were just talking about Gonzaga, they were 29-2 in the regular season. With them as the 1 seed in the West, will likes of Ohio State and Arizona stop them, or is Gonzaga going to keep rolling?
Let me jump on this one first. I'm hot on Arizona right now. People can call me
Don't know
crazy,
why.
and
I
I'm
don't
not.
know
I'm
why
not
either.
gonna. I'm not
Back to the Pac-12.
Back to the
I'm a
Pac-12 again,
guy,
yes.
but man.
But I'm on the Arizona bandwagon right now. I mean, they started off the season hot, and yeah, they stumbled in 5-5 coming down the down stretch of the season there into the tournament. But I honestly just think that you might call me crazy. I'm not going to tell you how far I have them going yet. That'll be later in the show. But I am telling you right now, I think Arizona is going to make a run.
Does anyone, either of us three expect anyone but Ohio State to win this?
Absolutely.
Division
I'm
easily.
on Ohio
Here,
State.
hold on.
Ohio State.
I'll lead to that. I'll lead to this region but hey, all I gotta say is Belmont. Look for them to upset your Wildcats because they're led by 2 senior guards.
Right
You got
away.
Ian Clark who averages 18 points a game. You got Karen Johnston who's a senior. And if you're led by your backcourt, that's how championships are won. I'm not gonna say Belmont's
This is
gonna
a
go all the way.
backcourt-driven game.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Yes.
why Michigan can possibly go all the way because you have Tim Hardaway Jr. and Trey Burton. Or
Trey Burke. Yeah.
It's a
But
backcourt-driven
yeah,
league. And
exactly.
Arizona has been so good at times, and then they lost to USC. My USC by 11 points.
They're doing they're making moves in this tournament, right? USC.
Oh, that's a low blow.
Low blow.
But
No
Had to do
blow.
it.
get
Had to
back
do
on
it.
topic though.
Enough about Arizona.
Is that what-
Wisconsin and Kansas State. Wisconsin destroys everybody in the Big Ten except for Ohio
There's
State.
something about Kansas
Hey,
State,
though,
they just don't show
the
up in
thing-
big
the
games.
thing-
No. And
The thing-
Wisconsin does. I mean,
The thing
only
with
team they've lost
Wisconsin,
to-
though, I've watched a lot. I feel like I've watched Wisconsin a lot this year. They're a forward-driven team by Bruzewicz. When you have forwards, it's tough for those guards to drive on, because they got bodies. Wisconsin, they've played Ohio State, I think, 3 times this year. They've lost 2 out of 3. But I feel like if they met with them, I have Wisconsin upsetting Gonzaga in the Sweet 16.
I don't blame you.
And I just think if they can get past Gonzaga, not saying Gonzaga is like the best, well, statistically they're the best team in the nation, but the schedule, we can have our opinion on that. I just think they will come to play against Ohio State, but just because I like Wisconsin.
And
But I have
Wisconsin-
Ohio State
Wisconsin
beating them.
uses a whole shot clock.
Wisconsin
They'll
can
take
lose
all
to Ole
40
Miss.
Yeah.
Are we forgetting that Ole Miss beat Florida? Wisconsin can lose
Marshall
to Ole Miss.
Henderson,
forgetting
that
it. I'm
guy.
forgetting it.
Hey,
Is
Marshall
that what
Henderson.
makes this tournament bracket so tough to pick? Is because you have Gonzaga, and I mean they haven't really played anybody. So as someone who's in this NCAA ESPN Tournament Challenge, you don't know if you should get them to go all the way or lose in the second round. I mean that to me makes it the toughest. Why I can't trust Gonzaga.
And
I
the
can't
Big
have
Ten is
Gonzaga
like
win
the number
national
2
championship.
conference out of the Power 6 is like the best, because I would agree that the Big East is the best conference this year.
I agree as well.
And then I would put the Big Ten as the number 2. When you got Gonzaga, they're in the West Coast Conference. They're playing a Big Ten school like that. I don't think they've ever seen a team like that.
Even doing that, I mean,
No.
we could deny that. I know we all think Gonzaga will lose, but the fact that they shoot 60%, it's 60%.
Yeah.
I mean, that's way
Exactly.
superior. Shooting is shooting, no matter.
I know
Shooting
you
is
want to
shooting,
jump on
but
but
something,
you have to
Jesse.
look. You have to look at the defenses that they're facing. I mean, I understand
Yeah.
shooting is shooting, but the
When you got
competition
open
that they're
shots, you better
facing,
make 'em.
game in and game out, it's just that's why I can't jump on the Gonzaga bandwagon. I just feel like they haven't done
you
enough.
want to
They're going to have a
because
tough
they're
game against
so
Pitt,
good.
too, in
Exactly.
the second
You
round.
want to jump on Gonzaga because they're so good.
Yeah.
But then you say, well, okay, if Gonzaga were to play against even Pittsburgh, who hasn't been that great. I mean, would
But
they
they
dominate
got
the way they've been
bodies. They
dominating? I
always-
don't think so.
Pittsburgh's always driven by forwards, and that's what they tend to pride their game around.
Yeah, they've got a stifling defense
But
too.
the one thing I am scared, though, just talking about the West region, I am scared that Ole Miss is going to upset Wisconsin because Marshall Henderson, that guy is a three-point machine. I think maybe 3 or 4 other players have more threes than him on the year, and when he gets hot, this team can
Well, isn't that
score.
what the NCAA tournament's all about?
Yeah, no,
Who
we were
gets
talking
hot at
about
the right time?
Yeah, we were
Exactly.
talking about single
Western
players,
Kentucky.
and we were talking about
Starting
single
off.
players carrying teams. You know, like Doug McDermott. You got the Trey Burks.
Kemba
No.
Walkers.
Kemba Walker, yeah, exactly. He led the show for UConn in, what was it, 2007,
Well, how often do we
2008?
see performance like that? We've seen it from Stephen Curry and
Anthony
Stephen Curry, and
Davis.
we've seen it from Anthony Davis. and
Adam
Kemba.
Morrison when he was crying. When Gonzaga last was
That was-
probably a 1 or 2
Well, I know
seed.
you were happy about that because it's to your Bruins.
Hayward
Yeah,
and Butler,
it,
too.
it was a sad day.
Yeah.
But
But
Yeah.
hey, though, watch out for Marshall Henderson. He scares me with that Wisconsin matchup because if the Ole Miss beats Wisconsin, my bracket's kind of screwed.
Now, see, there's another
Just
one
straight
that I
up.
want to
And
get
they-
you
Buck-
guys.
they can't.
Busted, man.
that to me is, I wanted to say Wisconsin could go to the Final Four, but because they play Ole Miss, I mean, again, beat Florida,
Mhm.
I can't.
And
Ohio
then
State to me-
they might have to play Kansas State.
Yeah, so when it comes down to it,
Exactly.
whoever's runs in Ohio State,
Yeah.
we basically have Ohio State going, right?
Like I said, I can't reveal how far yet. I'm having Arizona running here, but you know, I'm big on Arizona, guys.
Last point. All I got to say is if Wisconsin can get past Kansas State and Gonzaga, I think they will be prepped for Ohio State to put up a good game. Not saying they're going to win, but they have played Ohio State all year and they know what they're about. I think
does
they
Ohio
can
State.
make something happen.
That's a fair point. Now, moving on, guys. We're gonna, once we come back out of here, we're gonna get back on Cougar News March Madness show, and we're gonna talk about the remaining regions in this tournament and give you analysis of each one. Plus, we'll tell you who the next Cinderella could be. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Cougar News March Madness show. We left off talking about the Midwest and West brackets before the break, but now it's time to move over to the other side, starting with the South region. There's Kansas, Georgetown, Michigan, and that's only the top of the bracket. Guys, who do you see coming out in this competitive bracket? Sorry, Tyler?
Fort Tigran even gets in this conversation.
Just don't even let him talk right now.
He's not allowed to talk.
I mean,
Time out.
it's probably going to be
Time
obvious from how I talk about them, but Kansas with Bill Self and Elijah Johnson and
Ben McLemore.
Jeff Withy. I didn't even mention him. We don't have to mention McLemore.
Super freshman
Everybody
right
knows
there.
who he is.
Yeah.
Everybody knows. And after last year when they lost Thomas Robertson and
Rob.
somebody else.
More,
No, the Morris twins weren't last year. They were 2 years ago.
they're
A couple
right,
years ago.
that's
But
right.
back to that, they're a stacked team. Okay,
Stacked.
I have them going all
Now-
the way. I have them winning the whole thing.
he's got them going all the way. Tigran, this is where you'll come in. Where do you think they stack up against the rest of the teams in this tournament as far as talent, pure talent?
Call me, I don't know, a prisoner of an older moment. For some reason, I can't get my mind away from the 3 games they lost in a row.
They were in the
I mean, that-
championship last year.
I mean, that says so much to me. They
With the
lost 3
same
consecutive
team, though.
games.
Worst team. Different.
And
They
honestly,
Yeah.
the way North Carolina played against Miami, or Villanova played fantastic. They have some huge wins.
Villanova can upset, that's for sure.
Any one of these teams can beat Kansas. And then VCU, you can say what you want about VCU. They don't have a tough schedule. They've been there before. That's the same team that beat Kansas.
They
Did
have
you see
one of
what
the
Duke
most physical
did to
defenses.
Kansas? They were up by 20, 10 minutes into the game.
And well,
It got
my
ugly.
point- back
It
to
got
my
real
point.
ugly.
back to my point, Kansas can lose. I mean, they're not going to lose to Western Kentucky, obviously. But they can lose to North Carolina. They can lose to Villanova.
I don't know.
And they
about
can
North
go on
Carolina,
and lose to
dude.
VCU. VCU plays outstanding defense, and it's all about energy. It's all about intensity. And I don't know if Kansas is ready for that. I don't even know if they're mature enough to handle the intensity that VCU is going to bring.
I have a 4-year senior in Elijah Johnson. I think if he plays well,
And Jeff
the rest of
Whitty.
these teams don't
Jeff
stand a chance.
Whitty.
Now, but
he
we haven't
played,
even talked about Michigan yet, and they're amazing
Backcourt.
guards.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
you got to look at that.
I did say it was a
Hey,
backcourt-driven
Hardaway
game.
Jr.
Hardaway
They can
Jr.
shoot.
And I mean,
And they got Glenn Robinson III, I think, right?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, he
Yes.
just pops threes like his dad.
exactly.
Nobody
just-
pops
they're
either
born to
Glenn
shoot.
Robinson.
They were
That's
born to shoot, and I think they're a team that, you know, a lot of people have with VCU. Like I said, it's a scary team. I think, you know, I don't think it's much of a question that VCU is going to get past Akron. I mean, I'm sorry, Akron, but who's really worried about the Zips right now?
Unless they got LeBron playing on Akron, then they might.
Yeah,
be.
but that's a long time away. That's way past. But I got VCU and Michigan. What do you guys think about that matchup? I honestly think this could be one of the better games of the entire tournament, just because the pure matchup. You look at VCU's defense; they force over 20 turnovers a game. That's not an accident. That's the time put in wanting to do that.
Oh, have you
But
seen
then-
their full court press?
Exactly.
Hey, one
know
thing
what?
I
I
do
know
gotta say.
Tigran's high on VCU.
One
so-
thing I
don't-
do gotta say
Shaka
before the whole VCU Michigan matchup, you gotta look out for the upset in South Dakota State and Michigan. I'm not saying it's gonna happen
Oh,
for sure, but they
Kyle.
got senior Nate Walter. He averages 22 points a game. He averages almost 6 boards and 6 assists a game. He's those Cinderella type of players, you know, the Doug McDermotts, the guys we're talking about that could change a game. He can keep up
Cinderella's
with
are
that
like 6 and
backcourt.
7,
really
not
think
13
they
No,
can
no,
see
I'm
his
not. I'm not
backcourt?
saying. All right, I'm not saying that he could single-handedly beat Michigan.
Because
you
these
know,
are
with
two of
Trey
some of the
Burke. Trey
smartest
Burke
We've
is
guards
seen
in the
that with
country.
smaller schools. They can single-handedly. To go against your point, we have seen some
I'm
of
just
these
saying,
big-time
don't
players.
sleep on that. Don't be too surprised if that upset happens because Michigan is a young team.
They're
know?
a young team, but their guards are so intelligent. They dish it to everybody, and they are some of the
But
best in the
they've,
country.
I
at
understand
getting
that,
rid
but
of the
they've
ball when
lost.
they need
They've
to.
lost a couple crucial games.
Let me ask you
They
a
have.
question.
Who hasn't though?
Let me ask you a
No,
question.
I understand.
Why is it that I don't trust Michigan? I mean, a lot of people don't.
A lot
of
of
the
people
youth?
don't. But how many
Because
teams
of the
could you
youth?
say that about in this entire tournament? It's
You know what?
been that
I
kinda
trust
year.
Louisville because they play as a team. They're good in all facets of the game. I
And they're
trust Ohio
senior
State.
driven.
They
Why
just-
don't
And
I
they're
trust
senior
Michigan?
driven.
They just didn't lose when everyone else did.
That's a good point.
Any of these teams could have won, but they just lost.
Hey, though, don't sleep on my UCLA Bruins, though. They
Yeah,
might
let's
make-
give you the 4 year your local
Let's
team.
talk
That's a team
about
that
that
can- we have
matchup.
local-
Let's
we have
talk
local
Hey,
about
though,
that matchup
just
right now.
gotta say,
No, let's
for
talk
all
about
you
your
LA
UCLA
fans out there,
Bruins.
UCLA, even though we lost Jordan Adams to a broken foot, which sucks big time because he was just as good as Shabazz Muhammad. I mean, the thing with UCLA
I think
is
he
I feel
was-
like they played when they want to play, but they lost some pretty terrible
Don't
games.
even get me started
They
on Shabazz
did.
Muhammad.
Immature.
Well,
Immature does
don't
not
go
run a leader.
USC bias on me.
I'm not
Speak the
going-
truth. I want to
He
I want to hear
is-
what you got to
he is
say about
immature.
But
Shabazz.
see, like you're saying, you lost Josh Adams. I think
Jordan Adams.
Jordan Adams.
It's
my
okay.
fault.
It's
I
okay.
think he was your guys' best basketball player, pure
Yeah.
basketball
Uh-huh.
player. That's a big hit.
Shabazz is the best
But-
scorer, though.
Exactly. No,
Yeah.
yeah. As far as overall raw talent, Shabazz got it hands down.
Yeah, but
But-
don't forget about Larry Drew.
But exactly, Larry Drew's great.
One of
but
the
you got to
best
look at
point
this
guards in the
matchup.
game.
You guys are one of the worst rebounding teams.
No, we are pretty.
Tyler,
not
can you,
we.
can
I don't
you
play
talk
for
about
UCLA,
how important
but
rebounding is?
yeah, no, they don't box out. They don't box out at all. But I'm just saying, if they want to play, if they're in the tournament, because Ben Howland, they didn't make the tournament last year, I don't think, or 2 years ago. One of those. They missed the
They
tournament.
missed the tournament last year.
Yeah,
And
that's
there
right.
was
And they
one
made
of
it
the
2
biggest
years
ones.
ago, and they made it. They didn't even get to the Sweet 16 2 years ago. But what I gotta say is that UCLA, I think they play games when they want to play them. Hopefully in the tournament they'll be motivated. I have them beating Minnesota, and if maybe I'm stupid, maybe I just want to have that one upset pick. UCLA beating Florida.
It's that fan biased, and there's
Yeah.
no way that's going to happen against
You
my
never
Gators.
know,
I'm
man.
sorry, it's not happening against my Gators, all right?
I'm a Trojan.
But
UCLA can actually go to the Final Four if they play.
They have the
with Larry
talent.
Jr.
They just need the mindset.
see, I don't think they're
And we
efficient
need
enough.
Ben Howland out
Because
of UCLA.
with Minnesota, their best offense is a missed shot because they pull down every rebound.
But
I
every
does
understand.
UCLA
No,
just
I
hard
understand
shots?
UCLA doesn't
I think they miss
rebound.
enough to where
I
it's going to be a
understand,
factor.
I don't,
but-
that's the thing, though. I don't know if UCLA is going to miss enough. Shabazz Muhammad, Larry Jr., all these guys can shoot.
But when you're
And that's
missing
And
a
you
guy
got the
like
Ware
Adams,
twins.
you got
And
the Ware twins. But when you lose one of your best
No.
pure basketball players,
I
that
understand.
has an effect
No, that's
going
what
right into
scares
the
me.
tournament
That's what
as
scares me.
well.
But I still feel like they can be motivated and try and make a run. Because UCLA, let's be real, it's one of the most prestigious programs
Exactly,
in
and they've
all
had
of
a
college.
disappointing
You
season.
don't go off history. History's not going to
I
win.
know.
you the national
I'm just saying. No,
championship.
but when you play at UCLA, you're expected to win, and let's hope they can make something
These,
happen.
that's
in the
the thing,
sake
though,
of-
these guys don't have that.
In
They
the
don't
sake
have
of
that
not
anymore.
I
being
think Larry
homers, though,
Drew
guys,
has it. I think Larry Drew has
you know,
it.
we don't want to be called homers. Let's move on to some other
Yeah.
teams. We could talk about UCLA all day. I mean, you guys got the UCLA Bruin.
What do you
and
guys
the
think of
USC
Georgetown?
hate.
I know you love Georgetown.
In this bracket, Georgetown is the team that I think is going to go to the Final Four, play against
Exactly.
Miami, possibly go to the national championship game.
You got them
They
beating
won
Kansas.
11 straight. They struggled early, and then they won 11 straight games.
Played like
and
the
they've
best
beaten
team, played
some
like the worst team, like every
You got a
outstanding
team like
teams.
Georgetown here, though. You got to take a look at Otto Porter. I mean, this guy has been a one-man wrecking
Oh,
crew.
that guy's
I'm telling
a
you,
boss.
he is nasty.
That guy is a boss.
He can get it done, and their defense is stifling. I have
Otto
them
Porter's
in
a
my
senior
Final
too,
Four.
right?
Yeah, I believe he is.
Yeah,
But I have them in my Final Four, and it was so tough for me to not have them beating Indiana.
Well,
But their defense is legit.
And they
I see
played out of the
Porter
Big
emerging
East.
as a star in this tournament. I'm
They're-
telling you right now, Porter's going to be a star.
They're a Big East team. If you're in the Big East, you are prepped for this tournament.
Exactly.
So-
They're
well,
battle
Let
tested.
me just say this. Georgetown not only went on that 11-game winning streak, they dominated.
Exactly.
They dominated. If they keep playing like that, the way they're coached, there's no doubt in my mind they can win.
They're one
they can
scary
win the national
team.
championship. And we could have a Big East Georgetown versus Louisville national championship
I'm
game.
worried about
That'd
what
be
they're
pretty
going to do
cool.
to my Gators. Let's just say that. I'm scared.
I don't want to tell you what they're going to do.
Watch
to
out.
your
Hey,
game.
though, if UCLA does upset Florida, remember I told you so.
Oh, I'll remember that when it doesn't happen.
Okay. You never know. You
But-
never know.
And guys, going away from the South, we're going to go down one region, and we have the East region bracket. This is definitely a time where the bracket lovers save best for last. With the tournament's top seed Indiana in the mix, joining the Hoosiers are the ACC champion Miami Hurricanes, Butler, and Syracuse in this competitive bracket. Can the Hoosiers take it all is what I'm going to ask you guys. And me personally, no.
Oh,
Same,
can
I agree.
Can I just ask you guys, who here has them picked to win it all?
Not me.
I know you have.
Oh, I guess I'm the Lone Ranger that's got them picked to win it all. Because they don't have not one, but they've got two guys that are in it for Player of the Year. I mean, they've got some
They're
amazing
studs.
guys. They
Oladipo.
are, I mean, if they went out of there just off of talent alone, they're almost unstoppable. I mean, it's just ridiculous to me. You got to look at them. You got to look at Zeller and Oladipo.
They're cold right now.
They're
Super
cold. I don't
they
care.
They split
the
three.
thing-
Their last 6 games, they were 3-3.
They were 3-3.
How can you go 3-3 heading into a tournament this big too?
This is but you get a fresh start. Everybody in here starts off 0-0. It's everybody's on the same plane. I don't care what your rank is, whatever it is. They are, in my mind, the most talented team in this tournament.
How much confidence can you have at 3-3? Like,
What I gotta-
you got semifinals.
Hey,
you
though,
can make it to the finals
what
of your
I-
Big Ten tournament of your Big Ten championship.
Well, the Big Ten,
I see what
many
you're saying.
deem is the toughest conference.
Hey, though.
I don't personally, but that could be the reason your answer.
They're going to meet my Syracuse Orange in the Sweet 16.
How many miles do you got?
I
Is this
got
whole
all right.
show
No,
based off of
hey,
Kyle before he
promise.
buys?
No,
That could
no.
take a
I
while.
love UCLA and I love Jim Boeheim. I love Syracuse basketball. Just the way that zone can come together, if it's worked right, you can't score on them. The way you got to beat the zone, I think Indiana meets Q's in the Sweet 16. Oladipo and Zeller can't swing the ball out to each other. One's going to be inside, one's going to be outside. To beat a zone, it's all about your guard play. And you got
Well-
to swing the ball. You might have a guy open down in the paint, which will be Zeller, but you got to get those passes off in time.
true.
So I think they will have a tough time matching Syracuse, who is a team made for the tournament.
Go back to your point. You said
see
you
that.
love the fact that they have two guys that are going for Player of the Year.
Yeah.
But I don't think if they're going to get to the national championship, that's not what's going to get them there. Execution is what makes them. You look at their pick and
Exactly.
roll offense; they do a great job getting it to Zeller. But I mean, how much trust can you have in Zeller? He's
See,
not.
I see where you're
like
getting.
I said, it's a backcourt driven game.
Yeah.
And Zeller is not.
Is he a
gonna be-
junior or
what
is he
you're-
a senior?
I see what you're with that one.
He's a junior.
Yeah, he's a junior.
so
but
he's been
I-
there before.
I see what you're getting at, Tigran, but in my mind, I look at this, a lot of times when people talk about playoff basketball in the NBA, they say who can play, the least consistent and still have a chance to win, who doesn't have to play perfect. And I look at Indiana, and I think they're a team that's
I think
like
they're the
that.
complete opposite.
Really?
Like Miami.
I don't know why, because they're going to run into You're telling me you put Miami on the floor with Indiana and they're going to beat Miami?
I believe so. But I know Tyler wants to talk about Miami.
All I know is Shane Larkin and their 3-point game is unbelievable. I mean, these guys, they destroyed Duke at home. Destroyed them.
And they
go into Duke with Ryan Kelly coming back and barely lose that game by 3.
But you know who Miami did lose to? Those Wildcats.
That's true.
Of Arizona.
But hey, though.
I told you guys I'm hot on them.
Miami.
I'm sorry.
The funny thing is
Miami's a great team.
We have this saying that goes, you live by the 3, die by the 3, and the teams that shoot the 3 ball don't ever win. Miami's a team that I haven't seen struggle from the 3-point line.
No, and
they
got
great
everything.
If they keep
Their
shooting like that, who can
center,
beat
he could stretch the floor and pop
Exactly.
threes. I think he shoots like 4 threes a game, and he hits like 2.
And they got into that battle with North Carolina.
I get what you guys are saying, but then I look at the ugly loss against Georgia Tech. They squandered a 13-point lead against Georgia Tech. Name one player on Georgia Tech right now.
Calvin Johnson.
On Georgia Tech right now. He can't even save those Yellow Jackets right now.
Well,
is not
if we're
going
to talk about who lost to who, we can sit here all day. All these teams.
That's how they even
lost
get in the
to
tournament. It's not
the
about who
worst.
you beat, but it's about who you lose to. But all I got to say is Miami, this team, all the seniors on this team have never been in the tournament. That's what worries me. I mean, they got the talent, but they've never been in this type of tournament before. They played in the NITs and stuff.
Exactly.
So
the not in tournament is what I like to call it.
the best of the worst. The best of the worst.
If I remember right, Miami has yet to get to the Sweet 16 in school history.
And they're going to have to go through Marquette, who I think will beat Butler in the 3rd round. Yeah. So it's going to be Marquette and Miami. Marquette's a good team that can give Miami some trouble.
But Butler's another interesting team, though. I mean, they're a team that's been there, done that. You know, they're just gritty. Is my feeling on Butler.
But how much is the hangover from? 20. But how much is the hangover
from the final
or
in the championship?
How much is that going to affect Butler? I know it's not all the same guys.
Exactly.
But it's got to take a toll.
But but Brad Stevens, he's learned how to get his players ready for moments like that, and especially with new teams, isn't that kind of what it's all about?
What do they shoot, like 19% in that national championship against UConn? I don't know if Brad Stevens can go out there and knock down shots.
Well, then again, they had to go against Kemba Walker, who had the dirtiest crossover in
Gordon
college.
Hayward carried that Butler team.
Oh, yep.
Gone.
Well, he was gone the next year, and they still got to the national championship. But I think I'm not too high on Butler. I like Syracuse to knock out Indiana. I don't even think Indiana's going to go to the Final Four.
I don't think so.
And I like Miami to knock out the Cuse and get to the Final Four.
Just for the sake of argument.
I've got to disagree with you guys on
that. But hey, if they win, then they deserve it, because if they beat Syracuse, which I think they will see them in the Sweet 16, they're in that win. Still to come, we got your Final Four predictions. It's going to be a lot of fun, so don't go anywhere.
Vincenzo's New Hall offers the best value and great tasting pizza for all of the Santa Clarita Valley. From the freshest toppings and savory sauce to expertly hand-tossed pies, Vincenzo's New Hall offers terrific service, ice-cold drinks, fresh salads, and of course, great tasting handmade pizza. Vincenzo's features Friday night karaoke. Saturday night, it's live bluegrass featuring the Grateful Dudes, and Sunday, the only live local rock and roll. Vincenzo's New Hall invites you to dine in or try their takeout, or let us come to you with our rapid and friendly home delivery. Vincenzo's New Hall, inch for inch, the best pizza in the Santa Clarita Valley.
Welcome back to this Cougar News edition of March Madness. And I know that my favorite part about this tournament is the players that you never heard about during the regular season. Example A, Stephen Curry, who just a few years ago led Davidson to the Elite Eight and is now making his name known at Golden State. Aside from that, there's always that one or maybe two teams that make a deep run in the tournament, So you guys, is there a new Butler or VCU on the block?
Who wants to start?
Could VCU be that team? Like we said earlier, they
As
are
a 5,
scary.
do you count as this?
I was just going to ask
Cinderella?
that. Do you count VCU
I
if they
think-
get there? Do they count? I mean,
That's who I have as my
a lot of
lowest.
people-
In my mind, to take a line out of Tony Kornheiser's book, he said, "Can we please just count a 5 seed and above as a sleeper?" And I not necessarily Cinderella, but I think they could be counted as a sleeper.
I don't think you can.
I could
when
say
a
a
lot of people
sleeper,
have-
especially with the 1s and 2s being so dominant.
Exactly.
You know, I guess you can say that. But
I don't think you can count. A lot of people have VCU going to the final.
But would you
four.
count Michigan
you
as a
can't- That's not
4?
a sleeper. No
See,
one's sleeping.
that's
on
I'd
where I
rather
that.
put
the
St.
cutoff.
Louis in the Final
Yeah,
Four over
no.
VCU.
Here's the question I have for you. What is the definition of a sleeper?
I gotta
sleeper.
say
I mean, it's
7
self-explanatory.
or low, because the lowest
No,
I have personally is a
but the
5.
I'd
actual
give you a
meaning,
6. I'd
it's-
say 6 or lower.
It's
So I've
self-explanatory.
got a sleeper. All right.
The sleeper, I guess you would say the team you look at and you go, oh wow.
Yeah, VCU is not the team. people are gonna
Wisconsin,
look at and go, wow.
Wisconsin make it to Elite 8, you'd be like, okay, I can see
Hey,
that.
Butler's
so you
a
can look at it
And
like
it's the
that.
They
same
could
thing
be
with
the
VCU.
Butler again.
So
Yeah,
guys,
yeah.
what are some of those teams then? Forget about what we would classify. What are your ideas of who a sleeper or Cinderella team could be this year?
Creighton. I'm not going to count St. Louis. Creighton or
Mhm.
Wichita State. Take your pick.
Creighton's definitely a dangerous team. That's for sure. I mean, like we said, Doug McDermott.
Doug McDermott could take them a long way.
He's someone you
As a
have to
7
worry
seed,
about.
too. No, and he's a
Yeah.
he's a forward who could stretch a floor. Not a lot of teams
Exactly.
are prepared for forwards like that because you really only see those in the
Oh,
NBA.
I don't know about that.
For
This is a-
forwards
this is a
that can
game-
like kill it in the
This
paint
is a game
and
where
pop
you have.
threes.
Yeah.
Today's a basketball game where how many guys do you know that play back to the basket? Look at Louisville's big men, for example. All of them are great inside, but they all want to play face-up basketball. How many guys besides
Yeah, but
maybe
like in
Mason
the
Plumlee-
perimeter though, you don't see Mason Plumlee
That's what I'm saying.
popping
If you're going to talk about inside
18-foot
game,
jump
back to the
shots.
basket is not what's going to win.
No, but it messes with your defensive scheme though. You got to adjust to it, and then you can't run your typical defenses off that. Like Ryan Kelly out of Duke, he plays at Duke. It's not a Cinderella, but he is a forward. He's a big 6'11" guy who can drain any three that he wants to.
No, but my
And
point is you're saying teams aren't prepared for that. They absolutely are because that's all you see today. Teams are
I
always
wouldn't say
prepared for
that's
that.
all you see.
That
I
is
mean-
mostly what's name one big man besides Mason Plumlee that plays his back to the basket. You can't because everyone plays face-up basketball. And I look at Creighton, a guy. I think a lot of teams aren't going to be prepared for his inside game because how often have you heard of Doug McDermott this year? Besides a couple times on SportsCenter when he's dropped 40 points.
Exactly. Not much. But you know, like you're saying, the game has changed. It's not that
Absolutely.
back to the basket type of game anymore. A lot of it is who can stretch the floor, who can do those things. But to get back on topic,
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
was gonna say
who
we.
are- yeah, I mean, we could sit here and debate that
Sorry
stuff all
about
day
that,
because
yeah.
that's a great topic to talk about. But right now, we're here to talk about those sleepers and those Cinderella teams. I mean, who's somebody else? Like we said before, I like Minnesota, but I don't have them going too far. I think Villanova is another team that could be dangerous.
Are they really
Villanova
sleeper,
can
though?
be dangerous.
Well, I think the
They're a
problem
9
is-
seed, though. I mean,
See, I think a sleeper that's a high seed is UCLA. Nobody expects them to get far, but if they play, they have
Everybody-
the talent.
I'm okay with
UCLA
that
to go
pick.
back with the
With the
homer,
being
I
the
know
single
Kyle's
most
okay with
talented-
this.
No,
and
he's
Larry
gonna be a
Drew
top 5
playing,
pick.
and Larry
you
Drew
know?
playing amazing point
Let
guard
me ask
play.
you
Yeah.
this though: if UCLA were to get to the Final Four, is that really a Cinderella story?
Yes.
Yeah.
When
This
people
year-
look back
this
at the
year,
best
yes, it
Cinderellas,
is.
it's Butler,
It is this
George
year.
Mason, it's VCU. It's not
Well,
UCLA.
they were like 12 seeds. I mean,
But if you look
they
at
were
the issues
not
this
even-
year
With
that
UCLA.
UCLA has had, it is definitely that's a big story right there.
Because you're
For
going
them
to
to
think,
get there,
wow, if they make it to the Final Four.
and I mean, I'm sorry, but their coach, you know,
Is it going to save Ben Howland's
he's-
job?
I don't know. I'm not
might,
sure.
But I
It
as
could.
a fan, hope he's out. but
Oh,
we need to get John
Watch
Wooden
out,
back
Coach
from
Howland.
the grave. That's what we need.
you have a
But-
statue right out of Poly Pavilion. Maybe you can
Exactly.
give some direction.
But on an upset, I don't think they're gonna go far. But I think Colorado State can upset because their whole starting lineup is
All
full of
seniors, 5 seniors. That means
That's
something right
elite.
there.
Yeah.
You have guys that stuck around for all those years. I mean,
Have they been in the
Colorado
tournament
State-
all 4 years
Here's
now?
what I'm doing with Colorado State.
regardless,
Here's what I'm
you've
doing with
got
Colorado
experience.
State. Look, Colorado State right
Wow.
here.
He's-
Gone.
Colorado State, you
Out.
see
I
that?
actually have them
Out
in
of
You
the
see that?
first round.
Please make this man wrong.
Hey, though.
Please.
Just saying.
Colorado
It's right
State,
on our
you guys are good. Not a chance.
man.
All right. Hey, agree to disagree.
Those seniors count for something. I'll tell you that much right now.
Right.
I don't know
Hey,
how much
though.
damage they're gonna do, and I'm not big on a lot of those guys this year, but that counts for something.
I agree.
Again, Colorado, you guys are
Colorado
not getting
State,
past
get your
Colorado
facts
State.
straight.
You guys aren't
Yeah.
getting past Missouri.
Sorry.
Go to their brother Colorado. They're not getting past Illinois. Colorado. I'm sorry, Dave Brill.
I
we
pick
love you.
Colorado.
Dave
over
Brill is
Illinois.
rolling
Colorado.
over
But hey,
his
though, on to
grave.
the next topic. On to the next topic. Getting a little heated in here. Earlier, we broke down each region of this year's Big Dance. And with all those upsets that already occurred this year, it won't be an easy task, but we're going to try to make our predictions. As the viewer, you know what a year in college basketball is, how crazy it was. So if we're wrong, I'm sorry. So, what do you guys think?
You know, for me, like I said, you guys don't agree with my Final Four. And I'll just come out and say now, this is where I've got those Wildcats. The Arizona Wildcats, I think, are going to be in the Final Four. There it is right there. I've got Arizona, Louisville, Georgetown, and Indiana. Like I said, I think Indiana is going to win it all, but I've got those Wildcats in there. Sadly, I have them losing to Louisville, but I think this is where they make their run. This is where they finish off, you know, as much as it's not going to be that great for them after that. But I think they can make the run just with their trio of guys that they've got in Solomon Hill, Nick Johnson, and Mark Lyons. I think they're great. I mean, they can really get it done. And Solomon Hill, I believe, is one of the most versatile players on this team, and, you know, he can really make it happen, guys. And like I said, I've got Indiana. I've told you before, you guys know I'm high on them. A lot of people aren't, but I'm big on Indiana.
You must be high to be picking Indiana.
I mean, I guess so. That seems to be the case.
Hey, they're a good team. Arizona,
call me what you want.
Really?
Hey,
Arizona?
Arizona's a good team, man. They rebound with the best of them in the nation.
Indiana is going to – I wasn't convinced with them early in the year, but watching them play and the quality wins that they have, they're a for-real team. I just think they're going to have a tough time getting past it.
Now, but see, now my picks of Georgetown and Louisville – you guys don't seem to have a problem with those. Louisville, we won't even touch because obviously, I mean, the #1 overall seed. I mean, come on.
Louisville's
but Georgetown with Otto Porter, like I said before, guy. Like I said, he's a one-man wrecking crew. He gets it done. That's just what he does.
I like this part.
You like the top of my bracket.
This when you get to
like
this
the
side,
South and Midwest guys.
When you get to
this side,
Arizona and
South,
you pick Indiana.
Right?
I don't know what you're, again, Stephen A. Smith, asinine, asinine, 11.
I'm telling
Arizona is not even getting past the first round. Not even getting past the first round again.
We'll listen to Belmont, dude.
I'm telling you.
I can't trust Arizona. I know I've had trust issues all show, but I can't trust Arizona. If I'm not trusting Indiana, I'm not trusting Arizona.
I feel you on that one, man, and I do. They started off hot during the year, and like I said, like we've said, and Tyler called me out on it, they went 5-5 down the stretch. That's bad. You know,
and it all matters of what you've done lately, not what you've done.
Can we even have a Pac-12 team in the Final Four? Is that even legal? I mean, is that even?
We'll find out when my Wildcats do it. Watch.
No, but we talk about.
Look like a genius.
And I have Oregon going to the Sweet 16. They're going to lose.
No, but we talk about.
Just saying.
Here's the thing: we talk about Gonzaga and all these schools that don't play anybody, and we forget that because the Pac-12 is a
sort of overrated conference.
No, because the Pac-12 is a big conference. We forget that they haven't played anybody either. So can we really have the Pac-12 going to the Final Four? Arizona, really? A team that lost to USC?
Arizona, really. Back to my picks. Let's deflect it just a little bit here, though, from my picks. I want to hear what you guys have to say. I mean, what are your guys' picks? Like I said, I'm sticking with Arizona. I think they're going to be the team that's going to get to the Final Four. That'll surprise a lot of people. Just watch it happen. I'm calling it right now on the Cougar News March Madness show.
I respect your faith in Arizona.
Let's get to my Final Fours. Give me Louisville, give me Miami, Georgetown, and finally I'm going to take Ohio State. So Louisville versus Ohio State, Georgetown, Miami, 1-2, 2-2. It's like Tyler, who did you say that said if you're under 9? Colin Coward. If you're under 9, you're good. Under 9, I don't see anybody beating Ohio State in this bracket. Definitely not Gonzaga. I don't see anyone beating Louisville. Maybe Duke, but I don't even think Duke is getting past Creighton or Cincinnati. Whoever wins, the game between Creighton and Cincinnati is beating Duke.
That should be a good game to watch, though.
It will be a great game to watch.
Yeah.
Louisville, the experience. They are so good in every facet of the game. I have them winning the national championship.
They do have a great
over
defense.
Miami. So I have Miami beating Florida. They are good in every facet of the game. They have the size. They have the speed. They have the experience. They have the talent. You look at a team that won a championship a year ago, Kentucky. They didn't have experience, but they had every other facet.
They had the top recruits.
But Louisville,
they had like four of the top 5 recruits.
Louisville has
out of
similar.
high school.
I don't want to say the same talent, not NBA rated talent, but in terms of just athleticism and guys who can score the ball, they
had that.
And on top of that, you had great coaching, and you have
one of the best. Hopefully, you rock
experience.
that red and white blazer. Hope so.
I know we're all looking forward to that.
Talk about experience again. You really have Duke going out to Creighton.
Well, absolutely.
Duke going out to Creighton. They have Seth Curry. They have Seth Curry, Mason Plumlee, and Ryan Kelly, and Coach K.
Now, Tyler, you're
to Doug McDermott.
I thought we were living in the past. I thought we were living in the now.
But it's the same
You're
team.
telling me Doug McDermott's going to single-handedly
Tyler.
beat Duke's roster.
All right. Now let's here's Tyler's defense of them and the rest
I'll
of
get
his
back to
Final
you on
Four
that after.
picks.
Yeah.
All right, see, in my Final Four, I have Duke beating Louisville. I have Kansas over Georgetown, Ohio State, and Miami. And I have, then from there, I have Miami going on to beat, I have an ACC rematch of Miami and Duke in the national championship.
That should be fun.
I think Shane
That would be
Larkin is
fun.
your player of the tournament this year, and Miami doesn't miss threes. I mean, you want to talk about wet? They're soaked. These guys drain everything from downtown. And I wanted to put Kansas in there, to be honest with you, a gut feeling. I think they're great. If Elijah Johnson plays well like he did in Iowa State, they could beat Miami and go on to win the whole thing.
Forgot about
but
Iowa State.
I just-
Iowa State is good.
Yeah, they are.
Iowa State's a great team,
I'll
which
talk
you
to you
may
about
win in Iowa
I'll talk
State
to you
beat
about
them.
Ohio State.
So
but
exactly.
Can I?
Let's
okay,
hear it.
You have Duke,
I have Duke in the championship, yeah.
and you have them playing against Miami.
Yes.
that's
ACC.
going to be a game.
That would be a great game
If it happens.
but it's not going to happen.
I'd love
Let's
to
be
see Miami
honest.
win the national championship. That'd be fantastic for college basketball.
Warren Sapp.
Especially with what's
The
going on in
U.
the football
Shout out to
program.
Warren Sapp. Slap the
But-
floor.
There's Duke is. You're telling me if you put Duke on the floor with Louisville, they're beating Louisville.
I can't go
They
against
have the
what Duke
tools
has.
to do it. But here, all I got to say, my
gonna
picks
lose
are going to be the correct ones. So
Oh,
Not
man.
to
say it.
Oh, boy.
All right,
calling it right
so
now.
here we go. Right now, this is
He's
what your
calling it.
this
You
is
have
what
it
your
on
Final
tape.
Four is going to look like. It's going to be Louisville winning that Midwest. It's going to be Ohio State winning the West. You got Kansas winning the South, and you got Miami winning the East. I've got Louisville beating Ohio State. Going to be a great ball game. Aaron Crawford's Aaron Crawford's Peyton Siva. Two of the best guards in the country. Then you got your boy Shane Larkin. On the other side with Miami and Kansas. And that could be possibly the game of the tournament right there. Kansas and Miami. I think the guard play with Elijah Johnson and Ben McLemore is going to come to play against Larkin. And you got Jeff Withey who can size up against Kaji, who is the other big for Miami. It's going to be a hell of a game. Man,
Larkin
I'm
Johnson will be
I'm
fun.
still kind of on the fence, but I think Kansas is going to beat Miami, and then I got Kansas to win it all against
You guys,
Louisville.
both of you. Kansas, no. Duke, no. All you
Kansas has all
you're
the
crazy
tools.
with Arizona.
Hey,
I'm
Kansas
the only one
has
who has
all-
sense over here.
now see,
Kansas
I'm
has the
seeing a
tools.
trend among you guys with Miami here.
No, but the thing is, I got to say
Because
about
they're just so darn good.
the thing
I
that
mean,
I
They're
gotta
so streaky. I mean, granted, everybody has
Look.
been, but
Louisville, Ohio State, and Kansas all made the Final Fours last year.
in
okay.
your point,
They are they have a lot of the same pieces on this year's team as they did last year.
Louisville
They're
are bye.
hungry.
Louisville
They're going
has
to be
to
ready.
have bye.
I can
They
see
are
Duke
hungry.
upsetting Louisville though.
Yeah.
That is a possibility. You can't count that out. I just think with the senior leadership, guys they've felt the rejection. Peyton Siva missing the championship because Louisville lost to Kentucky, I believe.
let me ask you this:
So
was it not you that just said the Big East is the best conference?
the Big East is the best conference.
Okay.
And then
and
you got the
ACC, the second best conference.
ACC.
You realize they're going to play either North Carolina or Villanova in the second round.
North Carolina didn't play that amazing this year, and
They-
they don't
they
have the size. And North Carolina doesn't
But
have the
you realize-
size to match up. They're going to play Kansas. I don't think they have the size to match up with Kansas.
But
but
you
they've
realize-
got the coaching, and you
no,
can't-
yeah, the
there's
coaching.
nothing you can
Yeah,
do about that.
but hey, look at John Calipari. They had the coaching. He had some of the. Yeah, they lost Nerlens Noel, and they just lost in the NIT.
it's a lot to replace.
But-
That was a
They're not in
stunner.
tournament?
I mean,
Yeah, they're not in the
But let
tournament.
me
But
ask
I'm just saying it's not always 100% about the coaching.
If-
it's not, but that plays a factor.
But
I think it
With
is.
a team like
Obviously.
VCU is
UNC,
okay talent, but Shaka Smart's like 80% the reason they were in the final. In the
Well,
Elite
guess
Eight.
what? He's there now.
I know.
And their
They're not
defense is
sleepers
a-
anymore, though.
Their defense is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, Kansas is. If they get by Villanova or North Carolina, they're not getting by VCU. And
I don't know about that.
No, there's
I
no doubt.
respectfully disagree with you.
And I look at North Carolina, PJ Harrison, Marcus Page. Watch out for those guys.
Seth Curry just made me.
No, this is the
10 minutes
year
into the
that
game.
any team can honestly make a run, and no matter how much you look into it, it's going to be so difficult to pick this. So
it is. It's
And
going
as
to be a
Kyle
really
just
tough
said,
year.
As Kyle just said, that's why this March Madness is going to be incredibly fun because anybody can win. And there you have it. Those are our predictions for this year's Big Dance. May the road to Atlanta be filled with drama and memorable finishes. Thanks for joining us on this Cougar News edition of March Madness. For Cougar News, I'm Tigran Martirosyan with Tyler Whiting, Kyle Gaffori, Jesse Merrick. We're going to say so long and have a fun March Madness, everybody.
Good luck on
UCLA,
those
make me
brackets.
proud.